Welcome to Collective SOULversations. I'm Jody Jones, and I'm thrilled to have you join me on this amazing journey exploring spirituality, healing, and personal growth. With over 15 years of experience as a psychic medium and energy healer, I've made it my mission to help people connect with their true selves, and I can't wait to share this journey with you. In every episode, I chat with incredible guests who bring their own unique stories and insights to the table. We dive into different tools and practices that can help support you on your path of self discovery. So, whether you're just starting out or you've been in this journey for a while, Collective SOULversations is all about creating a friendly and welcoming space for us to explore the mysteries of the soul together. So, grab your favorite cup of tea, get comfy, and let's dive into this enlightening adventure together. Everybody, welcome to Collective SOULversations. I am your host, Jody Jones, and I have been looking forward to our conversation with today's guest for a while now. I had the synchronicity, I'll call that, because that's how these things always work, where I was watching him on a friend's podcast. And to be honest with you, I don't get a lot of time to watch others' stuff just because, the human time thing, there's only so much time. And I happened to be just at the moment where it came on. I watched it and I was like, who is this guy? Like, he's got some interesting energy. And so I found myself like really kind of like, digging the vibe of the whole thing. And then I reached out to him. I actually had a little reading with him, and then it was so good that I had my husband have one with him. So, yeah, I'm excited to share this person with you. And so I'm going to read his bio so that we can get a little bit of background. And then he's going to come on and give us the real version of it all. And you guys will actually get to meet him. So, our special guest today is Keyth Neo. And so Keyth is a student and teacher of the ancient Nasarean Essene teachings. He's a certified hypnotherapist using the QHHT modality. He's a composer of orchestral music tuned to 528 hertz and a pianist, artist, retreat leader, and author. His contribution, Rise of the Silver Dragon, is featured in Call of the Mystical Mountain, Mount Shasta, and the Emerging New Earth, which is published by Heart Open Publishing Enterprise. And it's the co-authored #1 Amazon bestseller across multiple categories. Keyth has been featured guest on multiple podcasts, including Transcend the Matrix with Chris King. You guys know my friend Chris, and Brittany Renee, as well as Mystic Radio with Robin Alexis and Elizabeth Diane. His forthcoming first book, Essene Tarot in the Ancient Marseille, and his companion deck, the Tarot of the Blue Rose, are ushering in a new age of understanding in regards to the origins of the first edition of the Tarot de Marseille, as well as their connection to the Nasarean Essenes and the Magdalene Mystery School, which is the Order of the Blue Rose, which is founded in the south of modern-day France. His handmade tarot decks have been sold to collectors across the globe. His video series, The Golden Braid, details his journey of spiritual initiation and introduces the teachings of the Nasarean Essenes while providing compelling mathematical data to support the authenticity of the Nasarean scrolls. So, welcome, Keyth. Welcome, welcome. I'm so excited that you are here with us today. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. So I love it when I bring somebody on who has like I'm gonna say probably what you are going to talk to us about today, what we're gonna explore is going to be far outside of my wheelhouse. And I love that because
Mhm.
as souls, we are here to explore, we are here to experience. And I feel like Spirit's just saying to me, sometimes we have to take it in bite-sized pieces. So I feel like that. So if you're listening to us right now or watching us, you might have some new things come up for you today. trust that the timing is perfect, because of course there's always divine timing in everything that we do. And so, Keyth, I want you to, I mean, your bio sounds like a magical mystery tour that sounds, but let us go back. Like, so take us back into, obviously you didn't just fall into this mission of, creating these, well, in a way you have,
Mm,
but let us see what that journey kind of like looks like for you. Like, take us back and tell us about some of the hurdles and how you
mm.
got doing what you're doing, and yeah, share some of that life experience with us.
Well, sure. I'm finally at the point now where I don't believe in coincidences or accidents. So I do believe all of this was preordained to some extent,
Yeah.
but I do also very much believe in free will. So how we arrive at these momentous preordained circumstances in our lives maybe has an infinite number of pathways to reach the nexus point, so to speak. But I had a really difficult childhood, and I was really uncomfortable being in a human body. I just didn't like being here. I didn't like this world. I didn't like violence. I didn't like the energies I felt. I was always super sensitive as a kid. And it was difficult growing up, very, very, very difficult. So suffice it to say that, by the time I hit my mid 30s, I'd given up. I had really given up. I was in severe alcoholism. I was in severe depression. I was just circling around the drain, is really the most accurate analogy I can give. Wanting to get swallowed by the darkness and never come back.
Right.
And a miraculous connection that I had back when I was a record producer. I was producing a record for an artist that was on American Idol, and this person I had a connection that was really difficult to explain. It was very twin flamey. It was really just bonkers.
Right.
But through the tumult of that relationship and friendship and professional relationship, he disappeared many times in my life. And then when I was maybe at my lowest, I had tried to move to LA the second time and be a famous record producer, and I failed miserably. And I was completely out of money, and sleeping on a family member's couch, and really consciously trying to spend as much time as possible asleep because it didn't hurt when I was asleep. And I remember I was like, well, I'm either going to like end my life or I need to try something. And I came across the meditation app Headspace, and it was like, can you do 10 minutes for 10 days? And I was like, I can do that. I can do 10 minutes. So I just dipped my toes into meditation, and immediately these doors started to open. And I could feel that I was engaging the power of spirit, and it was responding. And one of the doors that opened was this person who I thought I'd never see again came roaring back into my life like a tornado wrapped in a hurricane, and said, I'm taking you on a 10-day juice fast in the desert of West Texas. And I said, well, I've always wanted to fast. So, what do I have to lose? So I just packed a backpack, and we went off to the desert with some juice and some water. And he started playing Barbara Marciniak for me on the car speakers. I started listening to Barbara Marciniak, who wrote the amazing classic book in the spiritual community called Bringers of the Dawn in the 60s. And she's been an official channeler of the Pleiadian collective for a long time. And this was the first time I was exposed to some of this spiritual information. I grew up in the traditional Southern Baptist church and in a very toxic environment, and that had soured my views on anything supernatural. I would say I was agnostic at that point. I wasn't atheist because I knew something was there, but I didn't really care to understand it. I just wanted out of here.
Right.
So I started hearing stuff that I believe that the truth has a frequency to it, it has a vibration, and I just started responding to something that sounded like the truth to me. I was hearing stuff I'd never heard before. Before I knew it, like voices started coming up from the depths of my gut, like very guttural, very shamanic kind of chanty voices that were, it had to do with the mixture of energies with the person I was with and what we were listening to and the location we were on the land, going back to Native American land. But stuff started going on. I was being activated. I didn't know what was going on at the time, but I was going through a very serious initiation and activation. And on that 10-day juice fast, which was full of twists and turns and ups and downs, and 10 complete days of fasting, something transformed inside of me. And we would come to a crossroads while we were traveling together, and pardon me, and we wouldn't know which road to take. And he had a tarot deck. So this person happened to see the blue star fall at the Four Corners on December 21st, 2012, the Hopi prophecy of the blue star. He saw it. So he had bought a tarot deck that had a blue star on it for that reason. And so we come to a crossroads and we wouldn't know which way to go. And he'd pull a card for choice A and pull a card for choice B. And I was a completely cynical skeptic at that time. And I had no belief in any of this hooby-jooby stuff.
Right.
But that was when he would read the little booklet about the choices, and it was like so accurate.
Wow.
And I was going through all of this awakening and activating. And I was like, okay, there's really something to this. This isn't all just hocus pocus.
Right.
So that was how I kind of was introduced firsthand to the power of the tarot. So when I got back from that 10 days of the juice fast, I knew I wanted to get my own deck. And I was telling my friend about my 10-day experience that had just happened so spontaneously. And she's like, oh my God, you're interested in the tarot? You have to read this book. And she gave me the Alejandro Jodorowsky Marianne Costa book, which was about their restoration of the first edition tarot, the earliest form known in this current version of humanity, which traces back to 1471. And it's in ancient French, and it's the Ancient Tarot de Marseille. And she goes, if you're getting a tarot deck, this is the one you have to get. It's the one that hasn't been destroyed, and it's the earliest version. So of course, that whetted my appetite and my curiosity. So I read the book, and I was like, I have to get one of these decks as I was reading, and they were out of print. I couldn't find one. So I looked on eBay, and there's like a used copy for $500 or something like that. So I was like, well, screw that. So I was like, well, I'm an artist. So I went to the store and I bought some thick cardstock paper, and I was like, I'll just find the PDFs, on the digital images, and I'll start making my own deck. I was like, that's a cool thing to do. I thought it just felt right. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So I started, and that's how it began. That was in 2017, which is very significant to this current time period, by the way, because we're in this, we're in between these eclipses here, these time portals, and Venus is retrograde right now. And I was born during Venus retrograde. And why this is so significant is because this Venus retrograde season is going from 10 degrees Aries back into 26 degrees Pisces, I think. And Venus retrograded over the exact same territory at this time in my life during the end of March and beginning of April of 2017.
Wow.
So there's something being brought back from that time period right now after the blood moon eclipse on the full moon in Virgo that we just had. So I can feel it. I can feel it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so much happening for you right now. Like, it's like all of these gateways are opening up, and Spirit's just saying to me, like, it's been a long time coming. So there's like that sense of, we've been waiting for a long time for this to come. And it's almost like it can't happen quick enough because there's like all of this. So I'm curious, tell me a little bit about, because there are quite a few of you guys that kind of like all came together in that creating that book, right? The Mount Shasta, the Emerging the New Earth book. Tell me a little bit about that, how that came about, what that's about.
Oh, thank you for the question. I traveled 4 years with my deck of cards on blind faith, and I just put up my table and my sign. I don't like to advertise. I don't like to promote. My favorite thing is to find a spot that's legal and get permission, put up my table and my sign, and just have something constructive to do and just watch the miracles come up.
That's
and
so
they
cool.
always,
I'm
it's
so
the
jealous.
it's the most amazing thing. I mean, there's lows because, I was sleeping in my car with $3 often, but the person would come along with $50 in this magical reading, and so I was in Mount Shasta this last summer, I just arrived. I got there on summer solstice, so it was late June, and I had my table set up at the water fountains across from Soul Connections, right there on the main street with Mount Shasta in the background.
Right.
And I was doing my readings there, and I like to stay in the vortex places because these miracles tend to manifest more readily and more quickly and with more
Yeah.
frequency.
Yeah.
So I saw this beautiful couple walk by my table, and I saw the man kind of look back, and the woman smiled. She's like, he wants a reading, and he came back and sat for a reading, and I read for them, and they paid me double the suggested donation,
Right.
and I got to talking to the woman whose name was Jennifer, and she goes, well, she said, I'm a medicine woman, and she's like, I carry the medicine. I was like, oh, okay, because I think I'd recommended some plant medicine work to the husband.
Right.
And she goes, well, I'm a shaman and I carry the medicine. And we got to talking, and we had a wonderful conversation. And then she goes, she's like, I need to introduce you to my friend Melissa. So through a couple of days later, I get a message of her introducing me to Melissa, who's the founder of Heart Open Publishing Enterprise, and she was putting together this book about Mount Shasta.
Right.
And so something about this magical synchronicity of this tarot reading, tapped her on the shoulder to say, hey, Keyth needs to be put in touch with Melissa. They wanted me to be a part of this book, is what happened.
Right.
So I met Melissa, and I ended up being her personal tour guide on her first visit to Mount Shasta. And I got to take her to all the sacred sites, and I signed up to write a chapter of this book. And that seems to be ordained by Mount Shasta herself. And she just she chose her guest list and put this group of amazing people together to make that book happen. And I'm so happy to be a part of it.
That's magical. And so give us, and I mean, everybody, will include all the links so you guys know how you can go and reach all of his stuff. But tell us a little bit. So what is your experience then with Mount Shasta? What's the Mount Shasta medicine energy, that's magic, that's working through you?
Well, this is the very first sentence of my chapter in the book, is I met Mount Shasta in the form of a chocolate bar. They sell these
that's intriguing. I like that.
They sell these Mount Shasta chocolate bars in Mount Shasta, and a portion of it goes to help the wild parks or something like that. But so I was a record producer. I like to call it my past life in the same body. But I worked with Coldplay and Simon and Garfunkel and some very famous people when I was apprenticing a world-renowned mixing engineer in New York City.
Wow.
And so I ended up being chief engineer at this $3 million gorgeous recording studio, artist ranch in Wimberley, Texas, in the Hill Country. It's called Blue Rock Studios. And I was chief engineer there for quite a while. It was a high state-of-the-art recording studio, these beautiful recording spaces. And we did a project for someone named Gentle Thunder. And Gentle Thunder is a Native American medicine woman that is a Grammy-nominated world music artist. And she plays these amazing Native American flutes, some of them made from 2,000-year-old redwood trees. So you can look up Gentle Thunder in Mount Shasta.
Yeah.
And so she came, and I met her at the recording session, and she had a gift of that chocolate bar for all of us. She'd gotten chocolate bars for everyone on the project. So that was the first time I saw the image of Mount Shasta was on the chocolate bar.
Right.
And I recognized it, but I had no idea what was in store. That was back in 2008. Right. And I didn't go to Mount Shasta for the first time until 2017. So after that 10 days in the desert where I started listening to Barbara Marciniak, I didn't listen to anything but her bootlegged YouTube channelings for months. That's all. I didn't listen to anything but Barmar, call her Barmar.
Right.
And I just couldn't get enough. And I signed up for one of her workshops. And I drove my car from Austin, Texas, up to Lake Tahoe area, to North San Juan in California.
Right.
To go to one of the workshops. And I met this amazing girl there named Ashley, and she invited me to stay in her Airbnb with her. And she goes, hey, I booked an extra day on my trip in my Airbnb because I want to go to Mount Shasta. I've always wanted to go. And I was like, I know that place. It was on that chocolate bar.
Right.
And she's like, Mount Shasta is one of the most spiritual places on the planet. I was like, no. And she's like, we're going.
Right.
So I go to Mount Shasta, And I tell Ashley, I'm like, well, maybe my friend Gentle Thunder, who lives there, maybe she'll meet us. And she did. She met us at the coffee shop. And while we're there, just getting to know each other, she gets a phone call canceling her work for the day. So she's like, well, my whole afternoon just opened up. So I'm guided to ask if I can take you guys up to the top of the mountain.
Oh, wow.
So my first time there, I had a Native American medicine woman who's lived in Mount Shasta for a long time. Her mother was a central figure there and Native American. And she took us up to Panther Meadows and was playing flute blessings along the way. And we had a
Wow.
few miraculous experiences there. And so Mount Shasta just kind of spoon fed me her energy until I could adapt, because she'll knock you down if she has
Right.
to before she
Right.
rebuilds you.
Right.
And I didn't truly know her power until years later. I made a drive. I call it the drive from hell. I was driving with a wad of cash and no phone,
Oh, no.
and I had some interesting energies following me on that drive, and I was in extreme terror. And I got to Mount Shasta, and I fasted for 5 days. I was naked underneath my poncho, eating dandelions, bathing in the creeks, and I just sat and grounded. And Mount Shasta held me and just nurtured me back to health. And I left in a healed state. And that's when I understood the power of Mount Shasta.
Wow.
And it's ever deepening. But what I just can I tell you what I just gleaned this morning, because it's
Yeah,
it's quite it's quite
absolutely.
profound. And this is
Absolutely.
going I finished my book yesterday. It's on time for the
Yay.
deadline for the printer, and I've
So
been working on
excited
this
for you.
book. Thank you.
Yes.
Been working on this book for 4 years. It'll be four
Yes.
years in May.
Yes.
And it's the Atlantean Lemurian prophecy, because these
Wow.
cards have so many multidimensional messages. Of course, they apply to the singular, they give you what you ask for, but there's an underlying prophetic current. And I just learned that the Wheel of Fortune card here, which is the end of the lower octave of the major arcanum, this is number 10 of 1 through 10. This is the floods of Atlantis.
Mm,
This is the world floating on pontoons in the floods, with the
right.
collective physical and mental body. All three figures still have their animalistic nature, their tails. The higher self of humanity wants us to raise up to the upper octave, to the fourth dimension. But this is the catastrophe in Atlantis that sank us and divided us. The double 10, the judgment card, the end of 11 through 20, this is the Mount Shasta card. This is
Wow.
the masculine and the feminine, each having gone through their own red labyrinth, twists and turns to finally meet in the middle, so that they can match the vibration of the spiritual beings who come up out of their underground abodes. This is
Right.
Mount Shasta right here. This is the angel coming from the center of the sun, Gabriel, to blow the seventh trumpet, the arrival of humanity. This is the healing of the division between Atlantis and Lemuria.
Wow. And you're saying that that's where we are. That's kind of like the time of where we are, the energy right now.
I think we're just before it. The card before 20 is 19, which is the
Right.
sun card. And
Right.
that's the card of helping other people. And it's where you see the two figures in the sun card. One of them one of them has shed their tail entirely, and the other one has a small tail that they're still working on. But this is
So like
about pulling,
transformation, right? Yeah, that
yes, and
yeah.
reaching out to help pull the others across. And
Yeah.
Nasarean,
Yeah.
Nasa means to lift up, and Essene means healers of the mind, body, and soul. So
Yeah.
the Nasarean Essenes are those who reach down to lift up those into holy ascension, because they've been through the process themselves from a place of empathy. So
Right.
I feel that we're at that place of pulling our brothers and sisters across the shadow, across the floods. You're making me want to find the sun card now. Give me just a moment.
And I have to tell you, like this coincides. This is the interesting thing about with Keith and I. It's interesting because I always get so many validations from you. It'll be like I'll receive something the night before I had the reading with you. I didn't even know that I was going to have a few days before. I didn't know I was going to have the reading. I had specific things come through, and then in the reading, you actually brought them up. And following that, there'll be days where I'll like post something about something and you'll go in and say, oh, well, actually, it's because, and I'll be like, of course it is. And so, one of the things that they had been, Spirit had been saying for like, it feels like years now, but a long time, is that they were saying there would be more of us coming online. They would use that wording, and I didn't understand the whole of it, but it's so much, right? Like it's that we're literally, there's like an army of us. And
Mhm.
it may be the, what's your feeling about the, people talk about the 144,000. Is that number relevant? Because you're in numbers, numerology kind
Well,
of guy.
yes. I mean, right off the bat, 144 is a nine, right? 1 + 4 + 4 equals nine, so it reduces to nine energy.
Yeah.
But it's mentioned in the text. There were, and all of this has multidimensional meanings. It's not just literal, though I do think the meanings are literal. But there were
Yes.
144 members of the first Nasarean kibbutz when all was said and done. And it's also mentioned again in the Nasarean New Testament, the times of Joshua and Miriam. There were the number 144,000 is mentioned in this book, not just Book of Revelation from the traditional Bible. So I do resonate with it. I don't know exactly what it means. I do think it's tied into the Twin Flame Collective, bringing a higher template of love. I
Right.
think we're experiencing an expansion of love that wasn't possible
Right.
before this kind of transformation.
Yes.
And the prophecy of the cards is just coming in so strong. 17 is the star card, which has
Okay.
7 stars in it, which is the Pleiades. And there's star seeds. It's a star seed mission. There's a woman who's nude with a pregnant belly with a star seed connected to it.
Okay.
After 17 comes 18, which is the moon. This red moon, I think this is the blood red moon eclipse that we just had.
That we just had.
That we
Right.
just had. And the sun is a solar eclipse coming up on the 29th. And this I was talking about. This fig here still has a bit of his tail. This
Right.
one shed his tail. He has great clarity. This one looks a bit confused. And he's crossing the floodwaters of Atlantis.
Right.
The crescent moon is the hidden dark side of the moon, what's veiled
Yes.
in the subconscious,
Yes.
secrets, mysteries. And
Yes.
we're coming back to purified white ground. And
Yes.
some have already reached it. And so I feel like right now we're just especially in between these eclipse portals, there's
Yes.
something major going on. And then I
Yes.
think that's leading up to the judgment moment, the double
Yeah.
10 in Mount
Well,
Shasta, which
it's so interesting because when you're showing me that, they're literally showing me like the evolution of the species on this planet. So like the idea of, literally coming out of the water with the tail, with the, and then that literally transforming into, what we would, you know, perceive as being evil or the devil, and having, tails. We think of things with tails being serpent like or evil like, or right? And then that whole transformation.
well, in the devil card, they both have very long tails. The humans are chained and they have long
Right.
tails. So it's the
Right.
animalistic nature, but we see the tails going away. I love what you said about coming out of the water, the evolution and dropping
Yeah.
the tails.
Yes.
And I think we're finally getting to the point where we can honor and understand that the stuff we call evil and darkness is simply resistance to provide us the necessary friction in order to expand. We
Absolutely.
couldn't have expanded to the state that we're going to without all of the oogie
Yes.
boogies.
Yeah, coming out of the darkness, right? Like that's the, why do
You
you think so many of us who are, light workers, who are, doing the stuff that we're doing, have had our dark night of the souls? I mean, look at your, you as a soul. Look at the life you incarnated into. Look at the parents you chose. Look at the, all of that chaos and unbalance and all of that that you chose to come into. Why would any light worker, chosen one, prophet, Messiah want to come into that? Because we have to transform and change through the dark. That's how we, right?
and we have to take it on and transform it within ourselves in order to show others how to do it as well.
Absolutely.
That's what the sun card is about to me. The analogy I often say is that we chose to incarnate into a prison so that we could break out of it and
Yes.
and and blaze a trail for others to follow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because if we honestly, if we don't know the dark well enough and we're not afraid of the dark, we can never hold the power of the light. We don't have the capacity to do it. Having that knowledge of the dark expands our auric field, our energy field, right? And we're very limited in these human suits, but we have to do that in order to be able to bring in that light and anchor that light, right?
It's absolutely necessary. And you're just triggering so many of the cards for me. Because she once again is looking at the floodwaters of Atlantis. This is Queen of Cups, and she's holding her emotional trophy. This is the only cup with a closed lid. So it's
Right.
like closure, and it's mercy, compassion, forgiveness. She has a blue lotus on her third eye.
Mm-hmm.
So there's Egyptian elements in this. And I pulled this card out because she wields the sword you're just talking about.
Right.
She understands the darkness, the black of the sword, enough so that she can shine a streak of light from within it. But you have to go inside of the dark in order to shine light into it. And
Yes.
I think what was so difficult for so many of us is we didn't know we were doing that, because that's the
Right.
rules of Earth, according to the Earth's canon, is
Right. We have the amnesia,
amnesia.
right?
Right.
Yes. Yes.
So until you figure out, oh, I chose this, and this
Yes.
was all necessary to get me through this, then it starts to get bearable, and you can kind of start to see the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak.
Right. Yes. But it's very, very much true. And also, and we heard this from you telling us about, we very much have that dance with death and dying and the end, right? Like, of I don't need to be here anymore. I can't be here. I don't fit in. This is not my place. I feel like I'm dying inside and outside. So, we have those experiences also, so that you know, some people can call it a rock bottom, but I feel like it's that place of evolution for many of us. It's that literal of having our tails fall off. Our tails fall off so that we can fully transform.
And
And
our wings being born.
that's right.
Yes, and there's an analogy in my book that I use that starts with the hermit, because the hermit is like the end of the life of the caterpillar. It's like
Right.
when he's like, whoa, I got to look at everything in my life as a caterpillar. For some reason, I got to go take my lantern and shine it back into everything, and clean all the nooks and crannies up, because change is coming. And the
Yes.
caterpillar doesn't consciously know what it's going to do.
Right.
And then it climbs up the jar, and turns into a ball of goo hanging in the chrysalis. That's the hanged man, is hanging in the chrysalis.
Right.
The death card, which is actually nameless arcanum 13, it's not called the death card in the original tarot, it's just nameless.
Right.
That's when you're a ball of goo and you're about to emerge, but you don't know what you are. You don't know you have wings. And then Lady Temperance, she has these wings. Her angel wings are born, but they're still wet. They're not dry. She's
Right.
not quite ready yet to take flight. So there's a whole butterfly analogy in the tarot too. And I think that's exactly what we go through. And it's necessary. Part of the resurrection process is the death.
Yes. And because of the rebirth. And also it's I feel like one of the biggest programs on this planet, and for somebody who does mediumship, who's a medium, I know that there's no such thing as death. I know that there's no such thing. We don't die. And the powers that be, the dark energies that be, they wanted that information to be wiped from us from the beginning, because if we knew that we were immortal, they have no power over us, right? They
If
always have
we
to have
fear
that.
death,
Right, exactly. They
yeah.
they wanted us to always hold that seed of we can take this away from you at any moment,
Mhm.
right?
That's right. And those are verses directly from the Megillah as well. It says, if they do not fear death, they will not worship me, out of the
Right.
mouth of Lucifer. So,
Yes.
and that's where the number 666 comes in, because that's carbon. Carbon has 6 protons, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons. It's 666. So the number of 777, which is on the magician card, he has 3 dice on his table, and on the dice is on 3 sides, 1, 2, and 4 dots. So not only are those the first 3 numbers of the rule of doubling in vortex math, which is a hint at 369, but
Right.
1 plus 2 plus 4 is 7.
Wow.
So the 3 dice are 777. So the Megillah says that 777 is the number of the perfected light body. Also has something to do with the element of nitrogen. But carbon is 666. So the Luciferian satanic dark agenda, whatever you want to word it, is to keep the human spirit trapped in the carbon animal body, the tail.
Right. Right.
And prevent us from ascending beyond it and assuming the light body.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. What's your intuition telling you? What's your guidance telling you about the state right now of like the economy and the political scene and the whole, the collapse of the financial system? What do you get from all of that, of what's happening, the purpose of it all?
It's necessary. We're living in a paradigm that has truly lost its way. I mean, currency, it's described in the Megillah, first of all, in Book of Enoch, chapter 4. So I'd like to point everyone who's resonating with this, go to the Megillah Telegram channel and find the audio file for Book of Enoch, chapter 4, and give it a listen. It's the
And
best
tell everybody
39 minutes.
who's not familiar with that. What is that? When you're talking about that, what is that?
It's the forbidden holy text. It's the Bible of the Nasarean Essenes that was forbidden and outlawed, and they tried to burn it in Alexandria, but it was preserved and hidden with white magic spells and with some very brave human souls who gave up their lives to preserve this information so it could survive into our age.
Right.
The deck of cards that I work with is mentioned in the text. It's I would go so far as to boldly declare it's the true Bible without
Right.
distortion. Just like
Right.
I say this is the true tarot before distortion.
Right.
This is the true Bible. Now that triggers a lot of people, which is completely understandable.
Right.
But the book always says you read it, and if it reveals its authenticity in the heart of the reader. So it's up to the reader to decide with their sovereign discernment whether they agree with my opinion or not. I
Right.
think I've proven it using mathematics, but that's in the Golden Braid Part 2 using 369 vortex math and gematria for anyone interested in that rabbit hole.
Yes.
But what was I saying before we talked about what the Megillah is?
Yeah. So why the whole
That's
thing that's
right.
happening?
That's right.
Yeah.
The monetary system.
Yes.
I believe the financial collapse has to happen because the money that we use now is not backed by anything. It's literally dirty green paper that's $36 trillion in debt with tons of really weird symbology on it. And I've torn the currencies apart looking at all the symbology. There's a spider weaving a web. There's the all-seeing eye on the pyramid. The word Anu is on the back. There's some weird stuff on the dollar bill.
Right.
And if you get into what happens with, the Federal Reserve and leaving gold-backed currency and all of that, there's a restoration coming.
Yes.
But I don't think what's coming it's just like what we were talking about on the microcosmic level of the butterfly analogy or the death and the losing the tail. I think the money has to lose its tail.
Absolutely.
And I think we're seeing that happen right now.
Yes.
So I think we're in a
its
breakdown.
power, right? It's losing its power. And this and feel into this, because this is just insights that I've been given is, we have this whole crypto world that's emerging through this, right? And these are all, these are young people that are coming in right away. They're turning into millionaires, billionaires, like, you seemingly overnight. But it's interesting because a lot of these, and Spirit's just giving me goosebumps about this, a lot of these younger souls, and I happen to have, my 21-year-old son is one of them. They are very gifted intuitively. They are very brought here by divine light. They're brought here with purpose. They come in and they recognize, they look at the currency that we've had forever, and they're like, there's no vibrational power to this. It's powerless. And so then out of their, magical energy and their purpose of being here, they're like, we will create our own. We're creating this ourselves, right?
Yes. And I'm glad you brought up the youth because it brings me back. Dolores Cannon. I mean, my mama guru. I adore her work. For anyone who's unfamiliar with Dolores, she wrote 20 books over 45 years, and all the information that she wrote about came forth from her hypnotherapy clients in deep levels of trance.
Right.
And what makes her book so special is that she would cross-reference the information that she got through various clients. It would always be validated before she put it in her book.
Yes.
and she did her research. So this is why I've read her entire catalog multiple times with a highlighter, and this is why her information is so strong. Is because she worked at it, and she cross-referenced it. It's fortified. It's galvanized.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember in her lectures, she was talking about the three waves of volunteers. And there was the first wave of people like the Barbara Marciniaks and Dolores herself, and those who came to blaze the trail of shining light into this really dim world. And then
Mm-hmm.
there was my generation that came up and kind of followed in their footsteps, and it wasn't as hard as it was for the first wave. And
Mm.
she said the third wave are these children coming in. And she said they're the hope of the world.
Yes.
And she said they're very sensitive, and they're very
Yes.
sensitive to the toxins in the food and the air and the water. And this is
Mm-hmm.
why we're seeing the autism spike, and they're very
Right.
sensitive to the poisons that are being foisted upon us.
Yes.
But she said they're the hope of the world.
Yes.
And this brings me to this amazing podcast that I just came across. It was my sister actually that turned me on to it. And she just went on Joe Rogan a couple weeks ago. So I'm sure it's exploding in popularity. It's called the Telepathy Tapes. Have you heard of this?
No, no.
Oh my goodness, Jody. So these non-speaking autistic kids uh, have been given a voice using new methods of spelling boards and
Oh,
assisted
wow.
spelling, and
Wow.
they're being given a voice. And what they're saying is incredible. And they're proving scientifically their telepathic abilities with a 95% success rate.
Wow.
And these kids are going in their astral body to a place where they all teach each other in the astral realm. And they like one child, I'm just going to make up names for an example. Let's say there's a kid named Jeremy in Alabama. He talks about his best friend Jans in Norway, and that they meet on what they call the hill,
Wow.
and they teach each other. And then they'll talk to, Jans in Norway. He's like, oh yeah, that's my friend. That's my buddy from Alabama,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're proving all of this.
Right.
And they're teaching their teachers how to be telepathic, because so many of these teachers that were teaching these nonverbal autistic children were developing telepathic communication, and they'd be like, this kid can read my thoughts. But they would make the mistake of telling the principal or something about it, and then get thrown into psychiatric evaluation or
Right.
fired. So
Right.
there's been this gatekeeper. The scientific communities had a lid on this for a long time. But this
Mm-hmm.
podcast, the telepathy tapes, is now exploding in popularity. And I
Wow.
highly recommend it, because I think it's related to what you were talking about, that these kids came in and they're like, okay, they may not, all these old people may be fooled, but we're not fooled by this, and we're going to
Right.
create a new way. That's
Right.
the hope of the world. That's what Dolores was
Yes.
talking
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I feel like too, there's a vibrationally, there's a different aspect to them. So I feel like, my generation, and where we are, we are very much like the lineage healers. We're very much like like we've got all of the stuff from the past, right? We've got all of that, and that's part of our transmutation that we have to do in this lifetime. But those souls, like, so like the younger people, they don't have that. They don't have the ties that bind to them. It's like their human suit has different upgrades to it, that they're still glitches, because this is when we are coming from no form to form on this planet. There's glitches. That's, many of us have experienced the glitches. And I feel like that's, so we're, and it's interesting because they're just showing me now, like all the different levels and layers of, we're still doing this work, but it's happening all at the same time, because time is irrelevant and it
about.
doesn't
Yes,
exist.
that's
So
right.
we're
That's
all
right.
we're all doing this, but I'm telling you, it gives me hope. I don't know if you can feel that, the idea
You
that we
can.
have, yeah, we have this whole level of awakeness, of awareness that's coming through, and they're like blasting. They're like, and they don't have all of the restrictions that we had. They're like restriction free, which is pretty cool, right?
It's interesting because their restriction in these specific non-speaking group that's being now shown a spotlight upon them, their restriction was simply being able to
Right.
communicate. And I think we can relate to this as light workers, because even though we know how to operate our body and speak and communicate, we still had voices that couldn't be heard
Right.
by the world around us.
Right.
This is what these kids are saying they felt. And many of them speak of suicidal thoughts because they're like, I have so much beauty and love to share with this world, but they won't receive it. I don't know how to communicate it. I don't know.
Right.
And
Right.
I can't do what I came here to do because I can't
Yes.
operate my body. There was a glitch
Yes.
between the spirit being in the body.
Yes.
But what they're saying is gluing it's all the stuff that we've read about. It's just now hitting the mainstream. One of the
Yeah.
things, one of the kids was asked, what is love anyway? And he said, anything that unifies.
Wow.
And that just brings a tear to my eye.
Yeah.
And I was going to say something else that flew out of my brain there.
But that's what the whole purpose of it all is anyways, right? It's always, that's why one of the biggest, programs on the planet is the divide and conquer.
Yes.
And, on the other end of that, the light is trying to bring unity. We're trying to go back to that oneness, because in that oneness, which we are, that's our greatest power.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And I feel like I'm just now, after years of really hard work and trudging forward and flying high and then falling back in the mud and all of that stuff that we go through on the ascension process, I'm really now, just now, I'm trying not to sound arrogant anyway. I feel like I am truly embodying unity consciousness,
Right.
where truly everyone I see, I'm like, you are you, I am you, you are me, and we are we.
Right.
And I'm really beginning to operate on a moment to moment, minute by minute basis on this. And these kids and the telepathy, it's proving what I already knew because of what Dolores Cannon said, that everything is recorded. The thoughts create. They're hearing all of our thoughts. There's no way you can lie when someone knows they just read energy, which it's something that you and I know how to, we're all capable of this.
Yes. Yes.
But one of the other things the kids said is, and this is like verbatim from Dolores Cannon, and also what you just said, that time doesn't exist. It's all existing simultaneously. And that we're living all of our past lives, Atlantis, at the same time. So that when we go back and actually heal this stuff, it's as if it erases it from the Akash. It's as if it never happened. And that's what results in Mandela effect.
Right. Yeah.
So this is why I think, because I just want to mention that the Tarot of the Blue Rose is almost identical to the Ancient Tarot de Marseille, which was restored in 1997. But this 9th handmade deck that I just finished last week, which will be printed and sold as the Tarot of the Blue Rose, has upgrades and changes to it.
To reflect current, because you were saying just before we came on, you were like getting all these brand new downloads and all this. Yes, absolutely. That's so exciting.
So this deck it's unique. It's one of a kind. There is not another tarot deck like the Tarot of the Blue Rose, even though it's 95% identical to the Ancient Tarot de Marseille. And I'm saying that because I truly believe, well, one example is many people know it as the Hierophant card, which is the High Priest card. It's Major Arcanum 5.
Right.
Pardon me, just while I find him. But what he was called, and I just figured out why all this happened too, because the earliest this deck can be traced back is 1471. That's the earliest they could find proof of its existence.
Right.
The Spanish Inquisition started in 1478. So in order to survive the Spanish Inquisition, they had to remove and alter some of the information in the cards.
Right, right.
Just so it wouldn't be destroyed. Because if it had its Nasarean Essene origins in it, they would have destroyed the deck and burned it alongside everything else.
Yes, absolutely.
So the Hierophant is in the Marseille called the Pope. It's Le Pape.
Interesting. Wow.
So in my deck, I've renamed it to the Yair, which is the Nasarean term for high priest.
Wow.
And lo and behold, the day that I finished that card, a few days later, the Pope went into the hospital.
Really? Wow.
And I said, and I mean, we're all one and only love and ever onward.
Yeah.
But I said in a joking way to a friend when I changed the card and finished, I was like, I just killed the Pope.
Right.
I said, it's the Yair now. And a few days later, the literal Pope was on his deathbed.
Wow.
So I think that these cards and bringing these prophecies forth were ordained, and for whatever reason, I'm the soul that chose to come and evolve the deck and put these
Right.
connections together. But I
Yes.
think me completing these tasks is rewriting some of the code of these timelines.
Ah, I believe so for sure. Absolutely. And everything being, they're just saying to me, everything being a frequency, every frequency needs to anchor into some type of form. And in your cards, obviously they are allowing these frequencies to anchor in the card and express, to definitely show us the way, right? Show us the way of doing that. That's
Mhm.
amazing. They just keep showing me referencing the book that accompanies the deck. So tell us a bit about the book, because is it like is it huge? They're like showing me energetically it's huge. Is it a huge book?
Are you talking about the Megillah or
Your
the
book, your
Jodorowsky
your
book?
book that comes along with your cards that's
My
coming out.
book that comes,
Yeah.
it's called Essene Tarot in the Ancient Marseille, and it is 450 pages, and it's
Yes.
the most comprehensive deck, or it's the most comprehensive book on the tarot ever written.
Wow.
And it has downloads, these downloads, and because they gave me the Holy Megillah, which I also got through a miraculous connection through my cards, putting up my cards with my sign led me to get this book. I
Yeah.
got it before it was available. It was not,
Wow.
you had to sign a contract and get it from the high priest himself, but someone gifted me a copy of this book in exchange for a tarot reading in Sedona.
Wow.
And without having the information in this book, I couldn't have put the puzzle pieces together. It was like the deciphering
Yeah,
to
you needed
decipher
that
the code.
initiation, right? That
I
initiation into
needed and I needed the initiation, but I also just simply needed the information because
right.
there's stuff in, and I wouldn't have seen the details of the cards without having hand drawn them
Right,
to
right,
know that, oh, this symbol is mentioned in this verse. Wait a minute, this deck of cards must come from this book.
right,
And
right.
then the more you look, the more you see.
Yes.
Um, I think I answered your question.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll have the links for that. So everything's getting published, right? So you were like hitting the deadline, everything was going out. So this is going to be available to everybody. They can purchase it, right?
Yes, the launch is scheduled for summer solstice of this year,
Beautiful.
2025. So they
Beautiful.
should be available. The deck is going to be $88 and the book is going to be $44 and the bundle is going to be $111. And we
Beautiful.
should have that for sale on the online store beginning on summer solstice of this year. And I'm also leading retreats that do a deep dive immersive teaching. You get a deck, you get a book, and then you get 3 full days of teaching with me to go
Oh,
through
wow.
how to use this deck for yourself and for others.
That's
So we're going
very
to have a
cool.
retreat in Mount Shasta in June this year, and then we're going
Right.
to do one in Sedona in September for equinox, and then we're going to Hawaii to anchor this information into the Lemurian triangle of Mount
Wow.
Shasta, Sedona, and Hawaii this year.
That's super, super powerful.
Yeah,
So let me ask you this. What you're because again, for me, this has kind of been new. Like my team is always kind of like just they slowly give me drips of information, even though I've got a million books and it's interesting because I don't always retain everything. Just like when I do readings for clients, I do the reading and then it's gone,
same
right?
with me.
I don't retain that. And I feel like they've always said to me that so that I have a non-biased of everything so that when it's presented, I can be like, okay, anything is possible, right? That kind
Mm-hmm.
of. But the thing that's been coming up lots, especially in this last little bit, is the whole Essene journey and how I fit into that. And let me know what you feel personally connected to that. Do you feel like you are in a scene? You have been in a scene? Do you tell me about that? Because I feel like there is like this gathering of us that are coming together and we are all part of that.
Yes, and I don't have conscious memories of who I was or where I was 2,000 years ago.
Right.
I've had children come up to me and say things related to Jesus. I've had many other gifted psychics say that they saw me in that time period as part of that group.
Right.
Um, And I think that's just one lifetime of many where I've been working with the Nasareans, because this goes way back before Yahshua. You know, this reaches all
Right.
the way back before the cataclysms of Atlantis and Lemuria to the first humans. It's the inception of the planet. It's the,
Yes. Yes.
it goes all the way back.
Yes.
And I think I do too. I think my soul goes all the way back to those days of the first humans.
Mm-hmm.
And I was probably part of that original first group that had this book.
Right.
And I don't think I've been working with this book for 4 years now, 4.5 years. And there's a verse in the Holy Godspell, the Nasarean New Testament, chapter 3, where it describes the order of apostles of the Holy Megillah. And it said these apostles, it is their duty to be wandering, homeless ascetics that travel from town to town, sounding the holy call with their drum and teaching the Holy Megillah and living on the offerings of those who receive them.
Right.
When I read that the first time, I got full body chills.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and I was like, if this is what you want me to do, I'll do it.
Right.
And I did. And it
Yes.
was not easy.
Right.
It was not easy. But I did it.
Right.
And there were very high highs and very low lows. And this is when I was traveling on blind faith with my cards and my table and my book. That's all I did. Where was I going with that?
Your connection with the feeling like that connection to the Essene and that. And do you feel like too, like the more people that because you're having so many synchronicities now of people that you're meeting, obviously. And do you feel like there's an energetic change that's happening with them as well? Like, I feel like everybody's getting this energetic change right now.
Well, you know this, when we do something internally, when we have ahas, it ripples out. And now we're
Yes.
doing it in groups and eventually it goes to en masse. I
Yes.
remember the trail I was following here, working with this book for 4.5 years and introducing it to people and watching how it affects people.
Yeah.
One of the things that I just know is that this book and the information, it doesn't show up into your purview unless you've ascended to the frequency to be able to manifest it for yourself.
Right.
I don't show up knocking on your door with my book unless you've done some work.
Right.
Basically.
Right. Yes.
Everyone who sits across from me at my table, at my tarot table, there's something going on there, because we all know it's this frequency attraction, right?
Yes. Yes.
So I do feel that curses have been broken. One of the main things that I did, and I'll say this truthfully, but delicately, I had a wabi-sabi moment with the person who translated this book and is the copyright holder, and he's the high priest. And there was a tragic misunderstanding between us. I'll just put it that way. Because in this book, on the third page, is a strict no internet warning. The Essenes believed that technology would be controlling the minds of millions of people, and they did not want this information on the internet at all. It was forbidden to put it on the internet. And because of this extreme disturbance between us, I had made audio files. I was commanded or guided, I'll say guided, to translate this material into ones and zeros, which meant an audiobook. So I spent months making a pristine audiobook with my, I was a record producer. I had a microphone and Pro Tools, and I labored over making an audiobook to a very level of high quality of this, simply to translate it into a format that could be shared quantumly on the internet with the whole world at once. Out of respect for the copyright, because the person who gave me my copy of the book in Sedona after the tarot reading said, just promise you won't put this on the internet. They don't want it on the internet. And I was like, I promise I won't. But because I hit this point where I was like, okay, you know what? The world needs this information, and I'm doing it. I did it. And eventually we circled back around and came to an understanding of what happened, and we achieved harmony and peace with this. And now I have permission from the copyright holder and the translator. And as far as I know, I don't mean this to be egoic in any way, but as far as I know, I'm the only person on the globe that has permission to lead Zoom study groups around this material, to talk about it online, to put it online. He does allow people to share it a few verses at a time. Anyone familiar with the text can do that, but I'm
Yes.
the only one that has permission to share the entire early
Yes.
copy with not the new chapters, but the early printing that I have. He
Yes.
gave me permission. And for some reason, after I got that permission and that healing took place, then I did my first in-person study group in Mount Shasta, where people were coming and the mountain was broadcasting it out. And it really felt like barriers were being smashed. More people are being drawn to the vibration of the material and being able to
Yes.
hear it and
Yes.
understand it and resonate with it.
Yes.
Because those first few years was the most difficult, challenging. It
Yes.
was so difficult because
Right.
I felt
Right.
that's why I resonate with these telepathy tapes kids so much, is because I felt like, no, I have so much to tell you. I love you and I want to share this with you,
Right.
but no one could hear me.
Right. Yes.
And that's how
On
I feel
purpose
these
though.
children.
Yeah.
Yes.
On purpose. And they're just showing me that. So even when we think about this, okay, so here's a high priestess, here's all of these, mythical, magical beings that have been given this information to share. They are not, um, the dark still finds them. The dark still comes to them, and the dark still tries to shut them down. Right? There's the the more light that we carry, the higher our vibration is, the more the dark is attracted to who we are. That's just because we are a great energy source.
And
And I
we're more
feel like,
visible.
yes, absolutely. And so I feel like, the person that you're talking about that was, say, and the whole group themselves saying, no, we can't, this can't go out. We don't want the internet. They are susceptible to that programming. They are, even though they are, ascended and they have all of this brilliance. There's, they still have that level of like filtering that gets put on them. And I feel like that's like right now in this time and moment that we are in, I really feel like you said, those chains are breaking. Like that's the spells are being broken, the curses are lifting, right? Like there's so many of us that are, because that unity is happening, because we're coming together in that unity, our strength together is coming back to what it originally was. Spirit's just saying to me that again, that coming online together, strengthens, solidifies our light, so that when we're trying to be dampened, when things are trying to be, no, don't tell anybody that. We don't want you sharing that with the world. That programming is not affecting us anymore,
That's right.
because we
I
have that
agree.
support, right?
We do have the support. And so much of it is attached to the children
Yes.
in
They're
many
lighting the way
ways.
for us, right?
They're
They are.
lighting the way for us.
Yes.
And also, well, the stuff that's going on with children is also hitting the mainstream right now. And I
Yes.
believe that crimes against children will unite humanity.
Right. Right.
What's the phrase that someone on the political stage said this recently? We have to love our children more than we hate each other.
Right. Yes.
And I think that is the key to unity.
Yes. Yes.
Is okay, we disagree and we've fallen for the divide and conquer tactics on many levels as a group
Mm.
species of humanity, but when it
Right.
comes to saving children, that's something we can all get behind.
Right, right, right. Everybody sees it. Yes. Well,
And I
that's
think
why
we're at that stage.
yeah. Well, and here in Canada too, right? Around, and I mean it's been a few years now, but it's the Every Life Matters, right? The whole, finding of all the Aboriginal, the schools that were through the government, and all the children, and the bodies buried, and like all of the horrific things that, that the programmings have done. So I feel like that's part of they're just saying the shedding of the light of the dark. Like and it could only happen at this time. It could only happen at the time where we're ready to receive this. Because if we were still carrying all of the density that we were as well, we wouldn't be able to see the dark for what it is. We would see the dark as a power over us, that it has power over us. And now, because of the state that we are rising into, we recognize it as having it's powerless. It's powerless.
Yes, and we have also ascended in our discernment past the point of emotional manipulation.
Exactly. Yes.
that we
Yes.
were, I think the biggest tool that the powers that were had over the general masses was manipulating their good intentions with nefarious purposes. If you
Absolutely.
can trick someone into thinking they're doing the right thing when they're actually doing something that doesn't serve the light,
Yes. Yes.
then that's pretty powerful.
Right.
And we saw how the media was being used against the people. And if you go
Yes.
back and look at the FOIA documents from, Operation, blanking bird and things such as that, it's all there in black and white. And
Mm-hmm.
now that, I feel that they intended to give us these personal pocket technology devices to further enslave us. However, it backfired because all of a
Interesting, right?
sudden, yeah,
Yes.
we were sharing. We're all news reporters with cameras in our
Right.
pockets, and we're like,
Right.
wait a minute, this isn't what they're saying on the news. I'm going to
Right.
Instagram live this, and then people see it, and then
Yeah.
it's like
Yes.
things
It's
are
not back
being
in the day where people were writing scripts and then, like in the Bible verses, Bible chapters, to me, I've always had the knowing and the knowing that the stuff that's in the Bible it's not what it was. It's not. And if we totally 100% understand that now, because if you're somebody who still watches mainstream media and that's all you're watching, you live in a very different world than the actual world is, right? Like it's a big
totally,
difference. Yes.
totally, yeah, and yeah,
Yeah. And so here's another thing, because everybody's talking about this too, and this is coming in, and I always love how when we get these like gifts that come into us, there's always like this resistance. There's always this like little bit of like, oh no, it's from the dark. This is the dark trying to come in again. But I think and they're just saying we're past that point. We're past
mm,
that point now. So when these gifts are coming in, we can truly accept them to be gifts from the light. They are gifts from the light. We don't have to worry about the ties, the the fine print on the contract anymore.
well, and I found sometimes that like my cards would lead me down a pathway, my intuition would lead me down a pathway. And if you looked at it from the lower perspective, you could be like, why did you send me into that situation? That was
Right.
why did my cards lie to me? Can I
Right.
trust my
Right.
intuition? And
Right.
I'm finally like understanding like, oh no, it's because I had to go down that dark hallway to shine some light into it.
Yes.
And if you just kind of know that that's what you're here to do in every situation,
Yes.
then it's that fearlessness thing. And you just
Right.
trust that you're going somewhere. Because
Yes.
here's what I've learned about the dark energies. Yes, they very much lost a lot of their power. Like the stuff they're doing doesn't have the force behind it that it used to. They're
Right.
losing their grip or have already
Yes.
lost it, we could even say.
Yes.
Many of them are addicted, and I
Yes.
had to learn a lot about addiction in
Right.
myself and in others and what it truly is.
Yes.
Because my definition of addiction is when you want to quit something and you find out that you can't. And
Right.
you
Right.
don't know if you're addicted to something until you try to quit it. And that
Right.
can be a lot of different things. That can be sugar, that can be salt, that can be, you don't know what you're addicted to until you try to eliminate it. That's
Exactly.
why fasting is really important because you really
Right.
learn, oh my
Right.
goodness. But these dark things are addicted to what they do.
Yes.
And maybe perhaps they've spent lifetime after lifetime after lifetime dwelling in the darkness so much to the point that they don't even recognize the light still exists.
Right. Yes.
And half of my sessions at a certain point started to turn into exorcisms. And I didn't
Wow.
know that that was part of my path, but all of a sudden
Right.
my hypnotherapy sessions, some funky stuff started going on, and I
Yeah.
was guided on what to do. And they wanted to go. They were,
Yeah.
as soon as they could see that there
Yeah.
was light and that there was forgiveness and that repentance was an option,
Right.
they showed remorse and they left.
Right. Right.
And
Yes.
I think there's a lot of energies out there right now who are ready to stop doing what they're doing, but maybe
Yes.
they're too addicted to it to stop.
Right.
They're like hardcore drug addicts.
Right. Yes. Yes. Yeah. And I feel like that will be like the more light codes that come in, the more downloads that we're receiving, the more, Schumann spikes that we're having, Mother Gaia, bringing that her big power into that. I feel like that is, it's touching every soul on this planet. Like, you're there's nobody who's untouchable.
How could it not? And the
Right.
energy comes from the sun.
Yes.
And I ask of you, what on this planet is untouched by the sun?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So that's where the great solar flash comes into play. And I think that's in the star card. It's mentioned in the Megillah.
Yes.
Uh, the
And do
Megillah
you think
is
it's going to be, do you, because I know that there's, there have been people out there who have been like for a long time. There was one person in particular who's an influencer online, and I started watching her when she was like nobody knew who she was, and I was watching her because I was drawn to the content she was talking about. And it just got to the point though it was like always, okay, this is it, guys. This is the week. This is going to be the clarion call is coming. The solar flash is going to come. And in the beginning, I found myself being like, yes, okay, I can feel that. But then it wouldn't happen.
right.
It wouldn't happen. And then I found myself being like, yeah, okay, no, but it obviously it's because there's still so much work that has to be done. We get stuck in these dates and these times, like they're supposed to be like they're energetic stamps. They're not written in stone. They're not, it's like you brought up the date, the
Uh-huh.
December 12th, 2012, that whole, I can remember sitting in a circle with a bunch of, healers, light workers on that particular day because something was supposed to happen. We were all, and I was like, I was in it was a rough time in my life. Things energetically were like, and I was still doing light work and nothing happened. And I was like, what's the point of this? Like, wake me up when we're ready. When it's time for us to actually be ready. Wake me up then. But do you think that we're going to have a grand solar flash? Do you think it's going to be a boom, or do you think it'll be more of a gradual, just so that we're not totally wiped out? Because that is what could really happen.
Two things. One, there's verses in the Megillah that say that the prophecies are not according to a time or a day or a year, but they are the working out of certain events. So certain
Right.
things have to take place in order for the prophecies to be fulfilled.
Yes.
I think the astrological portals provide opportunities for those things to take place, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee that it's going to be on that date. Like I'm
Right.
aware that I brought out the moon card and the sun card and attached that to this blood moon eclipse and the solar eclipse that we're going to have at the end of the month.
Yes. Yes.
And I do feel energy around that, but is that concrete? That this, I'm not saying, I'm not
Yeah.
making predictions about
Yeah.
dates here,
Yeah.
because I think it comes in a way that will surprise us all.
Right. I agree.
Um, I do agree with the gradual thing because it does happen gradually,
Yes.
but I also think that the shift en masse will be in the twinkling of an eye.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Because so I think I agree with both of those concepts if I'm
Yes.
allowed to do that.
Yeah, because there's the human aspect, right? Again, in these human suits, we're very limited. We are. So there is that aspect where it will come gradually and slowly. But without the human suit, we everything is possible for us. So that can happen instantly, right? Where we can
The
instantly
Lord and
manifest. We can,
Lady, and
yes,
they can do anything. The Lord and
yes,
Lady can do anything.
yes,
And I think they're coming back as prophesied. And I do think that the change will happen in the twinkling of an eye. And I do think it has something to do with the solar flare.
right,
And
yeah,
in the Megillah and in the back, it describes other ages on other planets where this is a template. What's going on our planet is a template that goes on throughout the cosmos.
right,
They infiltrate a planet, they hijack its resources, they install their fake monetary system, they do all
right,
the bullshit they did to us, and they build
right,
technology. They called it technological wizardry with the towers.
right,
I
right,
think
yes,
this is related to the tower card. I think it has
yes,
something to do with 5G towers.
right,
And
yes,
they boil us like a frog. They
right.
turn the frequencies up bit by bit by bit,
But do you
4G,
notice with
3G.
that, we have adapted. I've
Yes,
had so many people when that was all coming in, and so many people, and to this day, people saying, "Oh, well, don't you think those days when we feel like that really strong radiation or we're doing that it's the towers?" And I'm like, "No, because we've adapted past that.
we've
We
adapted.
surprised
And
them because we are
we
like,
did.
we don't feel that
And
anymore."
I think that's why us, the volunteers, and perhaps this is the 144,000 number.
Right. Yes.
I think they they came in to hold down the frequency and to do this blocking of the darkest
Right.
of timelines.
Yeah.
So one other thing I wrote down that I wanted to discuss was
Yes.
this dolphin analogy that I was shown. When I was in Malibu, I was meditating and I saw this pod of dolphins, and they were all swimming as a group, as a family, under the surface of the water.
Right.
Now, every once in a while, one of the dolphins would jump out of the water, right? Make a leap out.
Yes.
And their bodies were wet. So I would see a reflected bit of sunlight on their body, carrying light forward one spark at a time.
Yeah.
Now, each jump out of the ocean was a lifetime.
Wow.
So it was a family working together, swimming against the current under the surface. And they would jump out one at a time, or four at a time, or two at a time. And that was like a lifetime, but we were carrying the light forward as a group, one lifetime at a time, moving toward the finish line. Yeah. So I think that applies to what you were saying. And
and that's kind of where we are. That's happening. That's the process of anchoring the light, bringing the light one at a time, but in that group, in that collective energy. Yeah. Yeah, that's
the
beautiful.
Verses in the Megillah that reference this that say that it's the collective enlightenment of humanity that causes the flash from the sun to disable all of the technological wizardry of Beelzebub.
Right. Wow.
And I also think that the towers and the 5G, I think those could be used for positive purposes. I think if they were pumping out Tesla frequencies, we could use that technology and hijack it.
Absolutely.
What if the light hijacked the dark technology for good purposes?
That's right.
And I totally agree with you that they kept trying these plans to sink us, and we're just like shields, mirror shields, blocking it all back. I'm like, good try, but we're just going to get stronger.
That's right.
And I think that's why it's been so hard for us. And I do think that the volunteers, the leaders of this, the front runners, the ones on the front line of this, I think that's why it's been so hard.
Right.
And why we had to go through this, because we all thought we were alone. We thought we were the only ones. We didn't have this way to connect, which is just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Yes. But I do think collective humanity, when enough people wake up, when people watch these kinds of podcasts and do their own research and access their own ahas and turn their own light on in their own DNA, when enough people do that, there's a critical mass point, a frequency at which it all just supernovas into 5D.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, we could definitely, we could sit here and probably talk like all day long about
this. I think we could.
This is so awesome. So we'll have you come back on, where we'll bring you on, and maybe we'll talk about something that's happening in that particular moment. Do you want to take us out with what you're feeling? Because we do have the solar eclipse that's going to be coming up. It comes up around my birthday is the 28th. So it's going to be a very powerful time, but let us know what you pick up around that. What kind of blessings are coming through that?
I'm seeing like a corridor or like a hallway. I am getting kind of the cliche of like a tunnel and like a light at the end of the tunnel, but I'm also I'm being shown myself like word on the path, and I'm seeing my helpers kind of push me back, like kind of keep me in line to walk a straight line toward the light. So I think it's really important right now to really keep yourself in check.
Yes.
Make sure that you don't, get distracted and go off the path, but really do whatever you can to be very calm and centered and focused on the next step you want to take and where it's leading, and stay focused on that, especially through this time period up into this eclipse, because it does feel like a powerful timeline shift.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And whenever we have these, energy portals that open up, and everybody thinks, oh, great, it's like rainbows and unicorn times, but it's often the opposite of it, right? It is. Yeah. So just be like prepared, have, have your preparations in place. Make sure that you come through it heart centered. Make sure that you're humble and grounded through it. Make sure you're not coming from an ego place. Make sure that you are not emotionally drawn or triggered to any of the stuff in the environment. I think that gets us a long way for sure.
Neutrality seems to be really important right now, and to be to be the center of the storm while the chaos swirls around you.
Absolutely.
And sunlight seems to be really important. I'm a
Yes.
big advocate of not using sunscreen.
Me too.
Don't
Yes.
use sunscreen.
Yes.
But also don't let your skin burn. But
Right.
go out and wear short sleeves and shorts and get sunlight on your body for 30 to 40 minutes a day. I think that's really helpful at this time.
It is, for sure. And the sun is different. Like the frequency of the sun is different now than it's ever been, right? Like
it's white.
I am a sun baby. Like I have always been somebody who could, and now I have to take it in smaller doses, which is very interesting, but it just tells me that the power of the sun is increasing. So that's also
there's a verse also in Book of Enoch chapter 4. Again, everyone go listen to Book of Enoch chapter 4. It'll blow your mind. There's a verse in there that says that inside the physical sun is a spiritual sun, and that the spiritual body of humans is fed by the spiritual sun, but that information is hidden in the glorious beams of sunlight. Wow. So in the sun card, if you notice, we see the two figures that are mostly nude, sunbathing, and the energy coming from the sun is information yellow, light blue, spiritual, being activated. So the rays of the sun themselves are raining down this activation of spiritual knowledge on the two figures below. So this is where I think we're at in the prophecy. This is like help as many people as you can, pull them on to the, shed and then teach others how to shed theirs. Or, help them help themselves, basically, because it's all up to the individual, but unity consciousness, free will, and pull as many people as you can across the floodwaters of Atlantis to join us on the holy ground of unified glory. Absolutely. Before the Lemurians come up from underground.
That's right. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Keyth, for talking with us and sharing all of this and your wonderful energy. And everybody who's listening and watching, I will make sure I have all of Keyth's stuff in there so you can reach out to him and connect with him. Definitely follow the calling. Follow that, when you feel that. I always say Spirit highlights certain words for us. They highlight certain people for us. So follow that calling, because that is the way to do it, for sure. My friend, thank you so much, and we will definitely have you back. We will continue some very interesting conversations.
My pleasure. It's been awesome to be with you, Jody. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Thanks, everybody, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Okay, bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Collective SOULversations podcast. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen, and we hope that you found our chat both inspiring and thought-provoking. Your support means everything to us, and we're excited to keep this journey going with you. So make sure that you subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so that you never miss an episode. If you enjoyed today's conversation, we'd love for you to leave us a review and share your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback helps us grow and connect with more wonderful listeners like you. Until next time, stay curious and keep those SOULversations flowing.